Once again, immigration is a major issue among voters this presidential election season. My next guest believes the U.S. immigration system and the justice system should be separate, and that committing a crime shouldn't mean automatic deportation for undocumented immigrants. It's the subject of his new book, Welcome the Wretched, in Defense of the Criminal Alien. Welcome to New Day, legal scholar César Cuauhtémoc García Hernández.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for coming in for this important topic. So, how did you get interested in this topic to begin with?
Well, I was born and raised in South Texas, where migrants are everywhere, in our families, in our schools. They're teachers to police officers, parents to siblings, grandparents. And so I saw from the very first days of my life that migrants, just like U.S. citizens, mostly aspire to do right by the folks around us, and migrants, like U.S. citizens, will inevitably fail to do right on occasion. And so I've always seen migrants as just being the ordinary humans that we are, all are, and that has nothing to do with our citizenship and everything to do with our humanity. And that's why I was interested in writing this book.
Definitely. And so with the book, what are you hoping the takeaway for people is with it?
Yeah, I really hope that we get to the point where these political conversations about how much it is that we can spend on policing the border or on locking up more migrants, add to that an additional layer, one that is more grounded in the real way in which migrants actually live their lives, and that is as members of families that include U.S. citizens, as people who get up in the morning and go to work and are trying to make a life for themselves in every corner of the United States, but in which they're also going to, on occasion, have problems because they are just normal people, just like the rest of us, with stress and frustrations about the cost of living. And as a result, we can expect that migrants are going to have, on occasion, problems with the police, and some of those problems are going to result in criminal convictions, and that shouldn't necessarily mean that they're any different. That doesn't mean that they're any different from U.S. citizens, because of course U.S. citizens have just as many stressors and just as many problems as anyone else does.
Definitely. And in the book, you describe many early ways the U.S. legal system was used to keep certain immigrants out. Can you speak on that and how the punishment changed there?
Yeah, look, the U.S. legal system has always tried to figure out who's fit for life in the United States. And unfortunately, a lot of the times we've used pretty repugnant markers like race, for example. It wasn't until the middle of the 20th century when the last racial restrictions on citizenship were repealed from the law. Gender, it wasn't until the early parts of the 20th century when women could fully own their own citizenship, free of their fathers and free of their husbands. And I think, again, here we're in the late 20th century and into the first couple of decades of the 21st, we think of crime, and Congress thinks of crime, and immigration law thinks of crime as being, one run-in with the criminal legal system is one too many. But of course, we have all kinds of examples of people who are prominent figures in U.S. culture or politics who have problems with the law. And of course, we can also see some of those folks in our own lives, in our own families, in our own friends circles. That doesn't mean that they are bad people or immoral people. It just means that sometimes people mess up.
And you were talking about some prominent figures and musicians. So you use musicians Justin Bieber and 21 Savage as examples.
Yeah, and these are examples of folks who are highly prominent, highly accomplished, but they also have problems with the law.
Yeah, definitely.
Justin Bieber can drag racing through the streets of Miami. He's had problems in Canada. He's originally from Canada. He's a Canadian citizen. 21 Savage, Atlanta hip-hop superstar. He's originally from the UK. And yet, Justin Bieber, ICE has never gone after him, despite the fact that he has a long string of criminal activity. He talks to GQ about how he used so many drugs that his bodyguards would check on him at night to see if he was still breathing, right? I mean, he admits this stuff, but ICE has never, gone to one of his concerts and said, maybe it's time that we kick you out of the United States. 21 Savage, on the other hand, a black man, is detained by ICE, sent to an immigration prison in Georgia, and it took him years to fight off a deportation case, and he's never been convicted of anything.
Oh my gosh, wow. And before we go, how would you answer to people who say you shouldn't be able to come to the United States without papers?
Yeah, I'd say then we need laws that make it possible for people to come to the United States with papers, because the reality is that there are migrants working in absolutely every community around the United States, at every sector of the labor market. We need more people. And if what we want is to make it possible for the government to know who's coming to the United States, then we have to incentivize people to approach immigration officials. And right now, we have the opposite. We have a whole host of disincentives so that people end up trying to get into the United States by any means necessary. That makes it more expensive, more dangerous, and at the end of the day, it makes it harder for the federal government to know who's in the United States and why they're here.
Wow, César, so important. Thank you so much for being here today and taking the time. And of course, if you'd like to hear more from César, he has a book event tonight, February 21st at Town Hall Seattle. It's called Redefining the Borders: How to Shape Inclusive and Just Immigration Practices.